Meet Mrs. Adaeze Okonkwo, 61, a billionaire real estate mogul from Lagos, Nigeria. Her sprawling estate in Ikoyi is a masterclass in excess crystal chandeliers casting fractured light across every surface, gold-plated furniture worth more than most people's homes, priceless artwork adorning polished marble walls. Every single piece was selected not for its inherent beauty, but for its message. I made it. I'm powerful. Look at what I've achieved. But like so many people intoxicated by status, Adaeze had a fatal flaw. She couldn't recognize value without glitter. She couldn't see success without spectacle. And it's in this stifling atmosphere of wealth that tonight's family dinner unfolds. An enormous table draped in imported linens, adorned with floral arrangements that cost more than most people make in a month. Around it, the entire extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins. And in two very specific seats, two daughters who could not be more different from one another. Chioma Okonkwo, 28, the youngest. She glides into the dining room like she's walking a runway. Designer dress tailored to perfection, hair meticulously styled, makeup flawlessly applied after hours of work. Her red-soled heels click against the marble floor, announcing her arrival before anyone even looks up. She's a social media influencer, a luxury brand ambassador, someone who lives for the camera. Every gesture is calculated for impact, every smile rehearsed for the phantom audience in her mind. And then there is Amara Okonkwo, 32, the eldest daughter. She sits quietly in her usual chair, the same seat at the table she's always occupied. It's a subtle but potent symbol of where she stands in this family. Secondary, unremarkable, not quite enough. Amara's outfit is understated, almost plain. Her natural hair falls simply, no fuss. She wears minimal makeup and no jewelry that glimmers or calls attention. To her mother, she's practically invisible. To the world that Adaeze respects and admires, Amara is a disappointment. But there is something in Amara's eyes, a deep tranquility, a quiet confidence that doesn't come from external validation. It's as if she carries a secret that no one at that table can see. Conversation flows around the table. Uncles discuss business, aunts gossip about neighbors, cousins compare professional achievements. And then, inevitably, attention turns to Adaeze's daughters. Chioma, darling, Adaeze's voice cuts through the chatter like a blade. Tell everyone about that new brand deal. It's with a French company, correct? Chioma's face lights up. Oh, Mom, yes, it's incredible. They want me as the face of their West African campaign. I'll be doing photo shoots in Paris, attending exclusive events, being featured in international magazines. She gestures with theatrical flair, her gold bracelets catching the light with every movement. The family erupts with enthusiastic applause and praise. That's amazing. You're so talented. We're so proud. Adaeze soaks it all in, clearly relishing every word about her favorite daughter's visible, tangible, enviable success. Her eyes glow with maternal pride. And then, slowly, terribly, her gaze slides to the other side of the table, to Amara. And you, Amara? Adaeze's tone shifts entirely. The warmth drains away, replaced by something harder cold, evaluating, unimpressed. What have you been up to? Amara takes a slow, measured breath. This question isn't new to her. It won't be the last time she hears it either. I've been working on some projects, Mom. Investment work, mostly. Confidential stuff. Confidential. Adaeze repeats the word as though it tastes bitter. Is that what you call having nothing worth talking about? Discomfort hangs heavy over the table. Cousins suddenly find the food fascinating. Uncles busy themselves with their plates. Aunts exchange uneasy looks. But Adaeze's not done. Look at your sister, Amara. Her voice rises, commanding the room with calculated cruelty. Look at Chioma. International brand partnerships, magazine covers, hundreds of thousands of followers who worship her. Events in Paris, Milan, New York. She's building an actual empire. Each word lands like a precise cut. And you? What do you have to show for yourself? secret projects, hidden investments. Adaze laughs, but there's no warmth in it. You're 32 years old, Amara. When are you going to stop pretending and actually live? Build something people can see and respect? Amara doesn't move. Her face reveals nothing, but beneath the table, her hands clench into fists. Not from rage, but from the effort of holding back. She's containing something, protecting something precious from the poison filling this room. Mom, Kioma interjects, trying to sound sympathetic while radiating condescension. I'm sure Amara's doing the best she possibly can. The best she can. As if Amara were someone struggling with basic competence, someone who deserves pity. The best she can isn't good enough. Adaze slams her hand on the table, and the china clinks loudly. I didn't raise my daughters to be ordinary. I came from absolutely nothing. I married your father and built a real estate empire from the ground up. I gave you both opportunities I never had, and one of you is thriving while the other. She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't need to. The contempt in her eyes completes the thought better than any word could. Just then, Amara's phone buzzes in her pocket. She ignores it. It buzzes again. Then, again. Someone's calling, and by the insistence, it matters. Amara quietly removes her phone, keeping it hidden below the table. The screen illuminates her face for just a moment. The caller ID reads, Main office, urgent. She glances around the table. Everyone's watching, waiting for her to respond, to defend herself, to react to the public attack her mother just launched. If she takes this call now, if she steps away from the table, Adaze will weaponize it. She can't even focus on family, she'd say later. Always running off, always hiding. So Amara does what she always does. She protects her real life from this toxic environment. Sorry, she says calmly, silencing the phone and returning it to her pocket. Nothing important. But Uncle Emeka, Adaze's brother, catches every detail from across the room. He saw the urgency flash across Amara's face, saw her choose not to answer. Unlike his sister, Emeka has always sensed there's more beneath the surface. A woman who ignores urgent calls during a family dinner isn't someone with nothing. She's protecting something. Anyway, Adaze says, pressing on into the heavy silence. I do hope you find something you can actually take pride in, Amara. Something real. Something that shows you're more than just a letdown to this family. Amara takes a slow, measured breath. Yes, Mom. She answers quietly, her tone controlled, revealing nothing. But something shifting inside her. A calculation. A question about how much longer she can play this role. How much longer she can hide her world from this woman who carried her but never once truly saw her. The dinner moves on. Chioma reclaims the conversation with talk of her next projects. Adaeze nods along, beaming. The other family members seem relieved the tension is broken. And Amara sits in her usual spot, that symbolic chair at the edge of the table, holding a secret that no one here could begin to imagine. 3 black SUVs parked on Victoria Island. A sleek, understated office where serious people wait for their boss's direction. A financial operation running quietly in the background, moving millions of dollars, transforming lives, enabling futures. And a 32-year-old woman at a family dinner, being called a failure by her billionaire mother. Because Amara Okonkwo learned something Adaeze would never understand. True power doesn't need a stage. True wealth doesn't need an audience. And true success doesn't need the approval of those who can only see the shine of surfaces. But there is a limit to how long a person can carry such a heavy secret in silence. And Amara is reaching hers. The phone in her pocket vibrates once more urgent, more insistent. She ignores it again. But for how much longer? The answer to that question isn't at this dinner table. It is buried in decades of memories that Amara carries in silence, like invisible scars that no one else bothers to see. But to understand why she keeps coming, why she keeps enduring it, we need to go back in time. 15 years ago. Amara was 17. The school auditorium was packed. Proud parents filled the rows, cameras ready, hopeful smiles. It was the annual academic awards ceremony, and Amara Okonkwo was about to receive the gold medal for scientific excellence, the highest honor the school could offer. She had spent 2 years researching, developing a project on water purification using low-cost local materials. Her work had been selected for national competition. Teachers called her brilliant. Classmates admired her. But when her name was announced and she walked onto the stage, there were only 2 empty seats in the front row. The seats reserved for her family. Adais had taken Chioma, then 13, to a professional photo shoot. She needs to build her portfolio, Adais explained that morning, barely looking at Amara. These school things can wait. Chioma has real potential. Amara accepted the medal with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She posed for the obligatory photo, heard the applause that sounded like distant echoes. When she got home that night, the heavy medal in her hand, Adais was in the living room, showing off photos of Chioma on her tablet. "Mom, I won." Adisi barely looked up. Won what, honey?" "The gold medal, the award I told you about." "Ah." A dismissive wave. "That's nice, Amara. But look here. See how perfect Chioma looks in this light? The photographer said she has a natural model presence. Now, that will open real doors." Amara put the medal in her drawer. She never spoke about it again. Fast forward 5 years. Amara was 22. She'd graduated with honors in business and used her savings plus a modest loan to start her first investment fund, a small operation focused exclusively on funding women-led tech startups. She was nervous but hopeful when she brought it up at a family dinner. "You did what?" Adesi's voice was sharp as ice. "You spent money on what exactly?" "I started an investment fund, Mom. It's small but promising. I've already got 3 companies on my roster and—" "You threw your money at other people's pipe dreams?" Adaz dropped her fork with a loud clink. "Amara, when are you going to understand? Real investments are things you can touch and see. Real estate, property, not this technology nonsense." Chioma, 18 and already managing 50,000 Instagram followers, laughed. "Amara's always been idealistic, Mom. Remember that water purification project she was obsessed with?" "Exactly." Adais shook her head. "Idealism doesn't pay your bills, Amara. Look at your sister. She gets what actually matters. Image, visibility, meaningful connections." Amara didn't respond. She just ate, each bite tasting like ash. 2 years later, that small fund had quietly grown. Amara had made her first major acquisition, funding a solar energy startup that would sell for $16 million 3 years later. But she never told her mother. Fast forward another 3 years. Amara was 27. She had just signed the papers officially making her the owner of Okonkwo Capital Ventures, though the company's public face was just OKV Partners to keep her identity private. Her personal net worth had surpassed the $8 million mark. She was at a modest restaurant on Victoria Island, celebrating quietly with her lawyer and accountant when her phone rang. It was Adazi. "Amara, I need you to come home tomorrow. I'm hosting an important dinner." "Mom, I'm kind of busy this week. Can I—" "Busy with what?" Her tone was dripping with scorn. "You don't even have a real job. Always doing these mysterious gigs you never explain. At least Chioma has something real to show for herself. She just closed a deal with an international cosmetics brand. Finally, a daughter who makes me proud." Amara hung up. She didn't cry. Not anymore. She just stared at the contract in front of her, her name in elegant script next to her company's valuation, and wondered why the approval of the one person who was supposed to love her unconditionally felt more important than any financial milestone. And yet, the next day, she went to the dinner. Why? Because Amara Okonkwo had learned something Adisi could never understand. True love doesn't give up, even when it's unrequited. And some deep part of her, a part she hated to admit existed, was still waiting. Still believing that maybe one day, her mother would really see her. But every dinner proved that day might never come. Back to the present. The crystal table reflects the chandelier lights from above. Silverware clinks softly as the guests eat. Conversation flows around Amara like water around a stone. Kioma is in the middle of an animated story about her latest sponsored trip to Dubai. Her hands gesture dramatically, rings sparkling with every movement. And then the hotel upgraded us to the presidential suite, completely free. They said it was an honor to have an influencer of my caliber staying there. She turns to Amara with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Have you ever stayed in a presidential suite, Amara? Amara could mention the 3 times she stayed in presidential suites during investment conferences in Singapore, London, and New York. All paid for out of her own pocket, not traded for social media posts. But she doesn't. No, Kioma. Sounds amazing. Adaze leans forward, her eyes beaming with maternal pride. My Kioma is going places. She understands the modern world. Influence is power these days. Then, almost as an afterthought, she turns to Amara. And you, Amara, still doing that? Mysterious work you never really explain? Her tone is cutting, dismissive. Everyone at the table goes silent, waiting. Amara could, right this second, pull out her phone, open her banking app, show the balance that would make Adaze choke on her 3,000 naira wine. She could call Emeka, her personal assistant, and have him bring the corporate documents proving she holds stakes in 17 companies across 5 countries. She could reveal that the mysterious trip she took last month was actually to sit on a panel at the Global Impact Investment Conference in Geneva, where she was a keynote speaker. But Amara learned a long time ago that convincing someone who has already decided not to see you is like trying to fill a basket with water. Useless, exhausting, pointless. So she just smiles. That small, quiet smile that hides oceans of truth. I'm fine, Mom. I work in investment consulting. Consulting. Adaze repeats the word like it's something dirty. Always so vague, Amara. Always so small. Look at your sister. She has 2 million followers. Brands fight to work with her. That is real, tangible success. What do you have to show for yourself? The phone in Amara's pocket vibrates again. More urgent this time. She ignores it. I have peace, Mom. The answer comes out calmer than Amara expected. Adaze frowns. Peace doesn't pay the bills, darling. Kioma laughs. Neither does it build an empire. Uncle Emeka, sitting silently at the corner of the table, watches Amara with eyes that see more than she'd like. He was always the sharpest one in the family. The only one who occasionally asked about her work with genuine interest, not scorn. But even he doesn't know the whole truth. No one knows. And maybe it's better that way. Adaze clears her throat, her smile widening in a way that Amara immediately recognizes as the prelude to something big. Well, since everyone is here, I have a special announcement to make. She pauses dramatically, ensuring all eyes are on her. As you all know, our family has always valued achievements and significant milestones, and we have something very special to celebrate. Kioma lights up, her hands instinctively going to her hair, adjusting it. My darling youngest daughter, my Kioma, is engaged. The announcement is met with applause and joyful exclamations around the table. Kioma holds out her hand, showing off a diamond ring that probably cost more than what many people earn in a year. Thank you, thank you. She glows under the attention. Chinedu is amazing. He's the founder of a promising tech startup. Young, ambitious, successful. Everything I could ever want. Amara feels something strange stir in her chest. Chinedu. That name. She knows that name. Adaze continues, her voice taking on an almost philosophical tone. I am organizing a proper engagement celebration for next week. It will be magnificent, of course. Because when a daughter achieves something truly remarkable, her mother must honor her properly. A pause. A glance in Amara's direction, so brief others might not even notice. It will be a celebration of all the family's achievements. All those worth celebrating, at least. The message is clear, crystal clear. Kioma has a rich and successful fiancé. Kioma deserves an elaborate celebration. Kioma is the daughter who matters. And Amara? Amara doesn't even have achievements worth celebrating. The phone vibrates for the 3rd time. Amara finally pulls it discreetly from her pocket, checking the screen under the table. It's Neka, her VP of Operations. Urgent. Meeting with Japanese investors moved up to tomorrow morning. Need your final approval on the $12 million deal. Please confirm. $12 million. Amara looks at her mother, then at her sister, then at the sparkling ring Chioma is displaying like a trophy. $12 million pending her approval. And she sits here, being treated as if she has nothing, as if she is nothing. She types a quick reply. Confirmed. I'll be there at 8 a.m. She puts the phone away, smiles, and keeps eating. Because Amara Okonkwo carries a secret so heavy that sometimes she wonders how her shoulders don't buckle under the weight. But there is a limit to how long a person can carry a secret like this in silence. And in a week, at Adizi's elaborate celebration, that limit will be tested in ways no one at this table can imagine. Because Chioma doesn't know that the young and ambitious startup founder she's engaged to only managed to found his company thanks to a venture capital investment from a discreet firm called OKV Partners. And Adizi doesn't know that the woman sitting at the end of her table, the daughter she calls a failure, is the person who signed the check that made Chioma's fiancé possible. Irony, Amara thinks, has a perfect sense of timing. And next week, that timing might finally reveal truths that have been buried for too long. But before the truths can emerge, there is another performance to endure. One more dinner. One more family gathering. One more opportunity for Adiz to distribute her poison and call it maternal love. Amara arrives 15 minutes before the agreed time, as she always does. Not out of anxiety, but because she learned years ago that arriving early gives her time to build her emotional armor before the arrows start flying. The Ikoyi estate glistens under the afternoon sun. Gold in every detail. Crystal on every surface. Wealth screaming from every corner, as if opulence could silence deeper insecurities. Amara knows this language intimately. She grew up translating it. When her mother chose $15,000 chandeliers instead of attending Amara's college graduation, the message was clear. When Adizi renovated the marble floors instead of asking about the first business Amara was building, the translation was simple. Things can be seen. Achievements can be photographed. But the quiet work, the invisible building, the empires that don't ask for applause, those don't exist in Adizi Okonkwo's vocabulary. The table is set with chinaware that costs more than many families' monthly salaries. Amara takes her usual seat, the chair at the end, the one furthest from the head where her mother reigns. Symbolism, even when unintentional, always tells the truth. She is discreetly scrolling through work messages when a voice interrupts her concentration. Amara. It's Uncle Emeka, her mother's younger brother, the only family member who never looked at her like a failed project. He sits beside her, his face wearing that expression she had learned to recognize over the years. Curiosity mixed with something deeper, concern perhaps, or recognition. Uncle. She puts her phone away, giving him her full attention. You look good, he says, studying her face. Calm. Unlike how most people would look before walking into this house. Amara smiles faintly. Practice, Uncle. Years of practice. It's not just practice. He leans forward slightly, lowering his voice. There's a difference between someone who's learned to survive storms and someone who's built their own shelter. The observation is so precise that Amara feels something stir in her chest. Recognition. Maybe even gratitude. You've always been too observant for your own good, she replies softly, and you've always been more than you let people see. Emeka pauses. Amara, I never ask about your life outside these gatherings. Not because I don't care, but because I've always felt you had your reasons for keeping things separate. But today, I'm asking, how are you? Really? The question carries weight. It's not the superficial courtesy people toss around like confetti in empty conversations. It's a genuine inquiry, made by someone who actually wants to know the answer. Amara considers his words carefully. I am exactly where I need to be, Uncle. It's an enigmatic answer, she knows, but it is also completely true. Emeka studies her face for a long moment. Then something shifts in his expression. His eyes narrow slightly, not in suspicion, but in dawning understanding. You've built something, haven't you? It's not really a question. It's a statement disguised as curiosity. Amara neither confirms nor denies. She simply holds his gaze. My mother once told me, Emeka continues, that the strongest trees grow in silence, that only weak plants need to scream to the sky about every inch they grow. Wisdom, Amara murmurs. And yet she forgot her own lesson. Emeka looks toward the door, where Adiz will soon make her entrance. She became so obsessed with the noise that she forgot to look for strength in the quiet. Before Amara can respond, the door flies open with dramatic force. Kioma, naturally. Her younger sister enters as if she were walking on an invisible red carpet, every step calculated for maximum visual impact. Her dress probably costs the equivalent of 3 months' rent for a decent apartment. Her jewelry catches the light in a way that cannot be accidental. And clinging to her arm is Chinedu, the fiancé, the entrepreneur. The startup founder Chioma won't stop mentioning in every social media post. The man whose entrepreneurial dream Amara made possible with a single check 18 months ago. Irony really has impeccable timing. Family, Kioma announces, her voice projected to fill the space. I hope everyone is ready for an exciting night because we have so much to discuss about the wedding. Amika looks at Amara. There is amusement in his eyes, but also something else. Solidarity, perhaps. A daisy appears right behind Kioma, her face beaming with maternal pride she never directed toward her eldest daughter. My beautiful Kioma, she coos, kissing her youngest daughter's cheeks. And Chinedu, welcome, welcome. I can't wait to hear about the wedding plans. Amara could point out that she is also in the room, that she arrived early, that she is sitting 3 meters away. That theoretically, a mother could acknowledge the existence of both daughters, but that would require a daze to see what she doesn't want to see. And Amara stopped waiting for miracles years ago. Kioma settles into the chair next to her mother, Chinedu beside her, and immediately pulls out a folder that looks like it was designed specifically to appear important. So, Chioma begins, opening the folder with a flourish. We've made the initial guest list. 500 people. 500! A daze claps her hands. Perfect! Everyone needs to see my daughter marry such a successful man. Amara watches Chinedu. He looks slightly uncomfortable with the praise, which is interesting. Genuine humility. Or just awareness that his success came from sources he would prefer not to examine too closely. And the venue, Kioma continues, we're thinking of Echo Hotel, the grand banquet hall, with the ocean view. Magnificent! A daze is practically vibrating with delight. Nothing less would be appropriate for my Kioma. Uncle Emeka clears his throat softly. And Amara, you'll be one of the bridesmaids, I assume. The silence that follows is so thick it could be cut with a knife. Kioma looks up from the folder as if she had forgotten Amara was in the room, which, Amara supposes, she probably had. Oh, Chioma says, and there is a performative awkwardness in her voice that doesn't hide the actual indifference underneath. Well, we're still finalizing the wedding party. It's such a complicated process, you know? Matching colors, personalities, social media profiles. Social media profiles. Naturally. Can't have bridesmaids who don't aesthetically match the Instagram narrative. Adaz intervenes quickly, her voice full of false diplomacy. Amara understands, I'm sure. Kioma has so many close friends, so many connections. It's important that the wedding party reflects Kioma's social standing. The translation is clear. Amara isn't polished enough, isn't performative enough, isn't enough, never enough. Uncle Emeka tenses beside her. Amara can feel his anger on her behalf, and she appreciates it. But she doesn't need it either. She learned long ago that other people's anger about how she's treated, however well-intentioned, changes nothing. Of course, Amara says calmly. I'm sure it will be a beautiful wedding. Kioma has already returned to her folder, flipping through photos of floral arrangements that look like they cost more than most people earn in a month. Now, for the flowers, Kioma announces. We're thinking imported roses, white and pale pink, 5,000 roses to be exact. Adaeze sighs dramatically. Perfection. Pure perfection. The conversation goes on like this for 40 minutes. Kioma catalogues every extravagant detail. Adaeze responds with effusive approval. Chinedu occasionally adds polite comments. Amara is mentioned exactly 0 times. It's as if she were furniture, present but not a participant, visible but unseen. Uncle Emeka remains tense beside her throughout the conversation. She can feel his frustration growing, but he keeps silent. Respecting, she realizes, her choice not to defend herself. Because that's what it is, a choice. Amara could speak up, could interrupt, could demand acknowledgement. But why? So that Adaeze can pretend to include her while making it clear it's just performative? So Kioma can make some shallow gesture of fake sisterhood? No. Amara is saving her words for when they actually matter. When dinner finally ends, hours later, Kiyoma stands up to leave with Chinedu, promising to send more updates on wedding planning via the family WhatsApp group. A WhatsApp group from which Amara was inexplicably removed last week. Accidentally, Kiyoma claimed. A technical glitch. Right. Adaiz walks Kiyoma to the door, still chattering about wedding details, still beaming with maternal pride. Which leaves Amara and Uncle Emeka alone in the opulent dining room. Emeka turns to her, and his expression is complex. Anger, yes, but also something else. Admiration, perhaps. How do you do it? He asks in a low voice. How do you sit here week after week and let her treat you like you don't matter? Because, Amara replies calmly, I know I matter. I don't need her to see it for it to be true. Emeka studies her face for a long moment. Then he shakes his head slowly. You've built something big, he says, and it's no longer a question. It's knowledge. Something she can't see because she's too busy looking at the wrong things. Amara doesn't confirm, but she doesn't deny it either. Next week, Emeka says thoughtfully, when Kiyoma announces her engagement publicly, when the whole event becomes the spectacle your mother is orchestrating. He pauses. Something tells me that truths might emerge. Amara smiles faintly. Timing, Uncle Emeka. It's all about timing. He nods slowly, understanding settling in his eyes. Then he leans closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that carries the weight of years of unspoken observation. You don't need to keep proving anything to her, Amara. You know that, right? The words hit something deep, not because she doesn't know it, intellectually she does, but because hearing it said out loud, by someone who really sees her, makes a difference. Amara meets his eyes, and for the first time tonight, she lets her armor slip just a fraction. I know, she says quietly, but maybe it's time she learned it too. Emeka smiles. It's a smile that carries understanding, solidarity, and something that looks like pride. Something tells me, he murmurs, that next week is going to be very interesting. He gently squeezes her shoulder before standing up to leave. Amara is left alone in the dining room. Around her, opulence screams from every surface. Gold and crystal and marble, all proclaiming wealth that can be seen, touched, photographed. But sitting here, in this chair at the end of the table, Amara carries something her mother never learned to recognize. True power doesn't need to shout. Real strength grows in silence. And next week, when Kiyoma makes her big announcement, when Adaize orchestrates her spectacle of superficial success, when all the spotlights are pointed at the daughter she chose to celebrate. Well, timing, as Amara said, is everything. And some trees grow so deep, their roots reach so far, that when they finally reveal their true height, the whole world has to stop and look up. Amara picks up her simple bag, her modest jacket, and walks out of the Ikoyi estate. Behind her, opulence continues to shine. Ahead of her, an empire awaits. Silent, powerful, built not of gold and crystal, but of vision, strategy, and the deep wisdom of knowing that true value never needs to ask for validation. Next week, that truth will finally find its voice. And when that happens, nothing in this family will ever be the same again. 1 week later, the Ikoyi estate has never looked so alive, so performative, so determined to demonstrate every penny, every achievement, every fragment of prestige that can be bought, displayed, documented for social media. Kiyoma's engagement isn't a celebration. It's a production. Lights draped on every tree in the garden. Tables covered with imported linen tablecloths. Flowers flown in from Amsterdam. A professional photographer circling among the guests, capturing every rehearsed smile, every calculated hug, every moment worthy of 1,000 likes. And Kiyoma stands at the center of the spectacle. Her dress costs more than what many people earn annually, pale pink, hand-stitched, with a skirt that floats around her like spun candy. Her hair is flawless, her nails pristine, her makeup applied by a professional specifically brought in from Johannesburg. She's glowing, she's striking, she absorbs every ounce of attention in the room, and she loves every second of it. Chinedu stands beside her, her fiancé. Handsome, impeccably dressed, radiating easy confidence. He mingles smoothly, sharing stories about his tech startup, the capital backing he's secured, the tremendous potential ahead. He's conveniently silent about where his funding actually originated, naturally. Mrs. Adayeze Okonkwo moves through the party like it's sovereign. She's dressed in traditional gold-embroidered fabric, draped and elegant, with jewelry that catches light with every gesture, a presence that commands attention without her saying a word. She orchestrates, she directs. She ensures every detail of this production says exactly what she wants it to say. Power, status, victory. Meanwhile, Amara sits quietly at the edge of the room, nursing her drink. Understated dress, minimal makeup, natural hair and a simple bun. She watches. She's present, but not part of the performance. Not even close. Uncle Emeka sits beside her. He hasn't said much since arriving, but his eyes are watchful. He sees things others don't. He always has. He glances at Amara now and then, as if waiting for something. As if he knew something was about to happen. But he doesn't press. He just watches. Guests fill their plates, laugh loudly, take selfies, post Instagram stories with carefully chosen hashtags. It's a party, but it's also a showcase, a statement. Look at what we've achieved. Look at who we are. Look at how we shine. Chioma laughs loudly next to Chinedu, her hand resting possessively on his arm as she tells the story of how he proposed. Big diamond. Elaborate surprise. All filmed, all shared, all designed for maximum social impact. People applaud. They praise. They celebrate. Mrs. Adaze smiles with pride. And then, when the conversation naturally lulls, when eyes turn to her in anticipation, Mrs. Adaze raises her glass. The clink of crystal against crystal silences the room. Everyone turns. Everyone pays attention. Mrs. Adaze is in the center of the garden now, perfectly illuminated by the lights hanging from the trees. She raises her glass higher, her smile radiant, her eyes scanning the gathered crowd. Everyone, she begins, her voice commanding and clear. Family, dear friends, today isn't just about an engagement, it's about celebrating excellence. My daughter, Kioma. She gestures toward Kioma, who beams and waves with practiced humility. Look at what she's accomplished, Mrs. Adaze continues. Beauty, intelligence, real success. She's built a brand that thousands of people follow. She's become a household name. She's earned respect, not just attention. And now, strategic pause. She's marrying a visionary young entrepreneur, a brilliant businessman, someone with drive, ambition, and an incredible future ahead. Chinedu smiles, waving modestly as the guests applaud. Mrs. Adaze takes a sip from her glass. Her smile remains, but something shifts in her eyes. Something sharper, more calculated. She looks around the room, and then her eyes find Amara. They stop on her. They lock on. You know what's important? Mrs. Adaze says, her tone shifting, becoming loaded with something darker. Something that changes the atmosphere completely. It's celebrating real accomplishments, success that's tangible, visible, shareable. The guests nod in agreement. Amara remains still. There are those who work themselves to success, Mrs. Adaze continues, her gaze still pinned on Amara. Those who build empires, create legacies, and then there are those who… Pause. Well, those who simply take up space. Uncomfortable silence begins to spread. Some guests look at Amara. Others quickly look away. Uncle Emeka stiffens beside her. Mrs. Adaze smiles, but it isn't a kind smile. Amara, she says directly now, no longer disguising it. My eldest daughter. You sit there so quiet. So. She searches for the word. Invisible. Nervous laughter from some guests. Amara takes a deep breath. Her fingers rest calmly in her lap. But something changes in her eyes. Something Uncle Emeka recognizes. Look at your sister, Mrs. Adaze continues, her voice now fully focused on public humiliation. Look at what she has achieved. Beauty, success, and now marriage to a rising entrepreneur. She built a life that matters, a life that can be seen. The guests are completely silent now. The photographer's camera has lowered. No one is posting on social media. Everyone is watching. Mrs. Adaze takes another step toward Amara, glass still raised, her smile hard as stone. And you, she says, each word precisely chosen to wound. What have you actually accomplished in your life? Silence crashes down. You're 32 years old. What exactly do you have to show for it? The room holds its breath. Nothing. No brand, no status, no partner, no visible future. Her voice drops lower, becoming even more cutting. You're not even half the woman your sister is." The words hang in the air, heavy, cruel, definitive. Chioma looks away, uncomfortable for the first time tonight. Chinedu looks confused, but remains quiet. Uncle Emeka clenches his fists, and Amara says nothing. She just breathes. For a moment, 2 moments, 3, it looks like she's going to stay seated, going to stay silent, going to keep accepting it, as always. But then, something changes. Not in her expression, not in her posture, but in something deeper. Something that can no longer be contained. And then, something shifts. Amara slowly, deliberately places her hands on the table's edge. Then she pushes her chair back. The scrape against the stone floor cuts through the silence like a knife. She stands, slow and deliberate, not in anger, not emotional, not for show, just standing. All eyes are on her now. Mrs. Adai's freezes, her glass still raised, her smile faltering. Chioma stops mid-reach for her phone. Chinedu straightens up, suddenly alert. Uncle Emeka takes a deep breath, his eyes shining with something that might be hope. The guests don't move. They don't breathe. They just watch. The garden, so noisy moments ago, is now completely silent. Only the wind in the trees, only the light swaying gently. Only Amara standing tall, eyes calm but unyielding, fixed directly on her mother. And the moment stretches, and stretches, and stretches, because something is about to change. Something no one at this party is prepared to witness. Something that will shatter every assumption, every judgment, every carefully constructed belief about who is valuable in this family and who isn't. But for now, Amara just stands there, silent, powerful, waiting. And then a single word. One word, delivered from Amara's lips, steady and clear. Mother. No anger in it. No hurt, no desperation, just presence. The room stops, like someone pressed pause on the entire event. Forks hang suspended in midair. Wine glasses stop halfway to people's lips. Even breathing pauses. Because in 32 years of family gatherings, Amara Okonkwo has never interrupted like this. Never talked back. Never challenged. Never claimed her space. Until right now. Mrs. Adai's turns slowly, her sharp gaze meeting the daughter who just stood. Surprise flickers across her face, and something else. Something that looks very much like irritation. Do you have something to contribute? The matriarch's voice is ice. Because this is your sister's engagement party, Amara. If you're planning to create drama, there won't be a scene, Amara replies, her voice calm and measured. Just facts. Chioma rolls her eyes, gripping Chinedu's hand with a smile dripping with pity. Amara, come on. Your presence alone is already embarrassing for the family. Don't make it worse by talking. A nervous laugh travels through the room. Some guests study their plates. Others watch with the dark fascination of spectators anticipating blood. But Amara doesn't take the bait. Instead, she reaches for the small leather bag she's kept beside her chair all night. A simple bag. No flashy logos. The kind of bag Mrs. Adai's would probably consider suitable for the help. From it, she pulls out a business card. Simple, elegant, matte black with silver lettering. She places it on the table in front of her mother. The silence becomes almost physical, dense, palpable. Mrs. Adai's frowns, picking up the card between 2 fingers as though it might contaminate her. Her eyes scan the text. And then she freezes. Completely. OKV Partners. The words come out quieter than she intended. Venture Capital. International. She flips it over. Engraved in perfect lettering. Amara Okonkwo, founder and CEO. The room tilts. Chioma lunges forward, ripping the card from her mother's hands. This is fake. She laughs, but it sounds hollow. Wrong. You paid someone to make fake business cards? This is seriously what you're doing? Making up lies? They're not lies. The voice interrupting isn't Amara's. It's Chinedu's. Chioma's fiancé has gone completely white, like he's seen something impossible. His hands tremble as he looks at Amara, eyes wide. OKV Partners. He breathes the name like an incantation. OKV Partners is. That's the firm that financed my startup 18 months ago. They were the only investors who believed in me when everyone else had written me off. The silence explodes into absolute shock. Kioma drops the card as if it burned. What? No. Chinedu, you said it was an anonymous investor. You said I told the truth. Chinedu's voice is strange, distant, as if speaking from underwater. I never knew who was behind OKV. They maintain absolute secrecy. All documents, all meetings, always through legal representatives. He turns slowly to Amara, and there is something close to reverence in his gaze. You, all this time, you were the investor who saved my company. Amara tilts her head slightly, a simple gesture, elegant. Your project had real merit, Chinedu. It didn't need my name. It needed capital and strategic guidance. I provided both. Mrs. Adaiz stands up abruptly, her chair scraping against the marble floor with a sound that makes everyone shiver. That's ridiculous. Her voice trembles with something between anger and disbelief. You expect me to believe that you, Amara, you who can barely dress yourself properly, you who have never shown an ounce of ambition, you own a venture capital firm? I don't expect you to believe anything, Mother. Amara's voice remains unchanged, calm like still water before a storm. I expect you to read. And from her bag, she withdraws a thin folder. Black, discreet. But when she opens it on the table, the documents she spreads out are anything but discreet. Business registration certificates, investment portfolios, notarized documents from international holdings, financial newspaper clippings, and there, in printed letters that cannot be denied, anonymous philanthropist donates $3 million to Lagos Children's Hospital. Mystery investor behind Nigeria's top edtech startups revealed as female entrepreneur. OKV Partners listed among top 50 venture capital firms in West Africa. Photo after photo, article after article, award after award, all mentioning OKV Partners, some with silhouettes, others with references to a founder who prefers anonymity. But all, absolutely all of them, pointing to the same inescapable truth. Uncle Emeka stands up slowly, picking up one of the articles. His eyes dance across the page, and then find Amara. And there, on that face marked by time and wisdom, a smile appears. Small, almost imperceptible, but completely proud. I knew it. His voice is a raspy whisper of contained emotion. I always knew there was something. The way you carried yourself. The peace in your eyes while we all chased after validation. He shakes his head, chuckling softly. You weren't hiding failure, niece. You were protecting your empire. Mrs. Adaiz snatches the newspaper from her brother's hands, her eyes racing frantically over the words. This can't be right. How much? How much do you— My current net worth, Amara interrupts gently, surpasses yours by approximately 23%. The sound that escapes Mrs. Adaiz is something between a sigh and a gasp. 23%. Amara finishes the sentence. Yes. Kioma is standing now, her hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles are white. No, this is a lie. You're making this up. These documents are fake. You paid someone to— Kioma. Chinedu's voice is firm but gentle. There is something close to pity in his eyes when he looks at his fiancée. OKV Partners is real. I sign monthly reports for them. I take calls from strategic consultants who work for them. They invested $8 million in my company. He points at Amara with a trembling hand. If she says she is the founder, then she is the founder. And the silence that follows is so deep you can hear the crystal in the glasses vibrating with the air conditioning. Mrs. Adaiz sinks slowly back into her chair. Her face, usually so composed, so controlled, is completely white. Shocked, as if someone had rewritten reality without her consent. Why? The word comes out broken, small. Why did you hide this? And it is that question, finally, that makes Amara smile. It's not a smile of victory. It's not revenge. It is something softer, sadder, as if she were looking at a child who can't understand basic math. "Because, Mother," she says gently, "I didn't build an empire to prove anything to you. I built it to have meaning, to create impact, to help entrepreneurs who would never have a chance otherwise." She points to the photos scattered on the table, the headlines, the numbers. "I could have done it Kioma's way. I could have plastered my face on every magazine. I could have bought mansions and cars and designer clothes for everyone to see my success." A pause. "But I chose to build something real, something that would last, something that would matter when the cameras turned off and the spotlights faded." She looks directly at her mother, and for the first time in decades, Mrs. Adaze looks away first. "You taught me that success is performance. That value is measured in applause and the envy of others." Amara shakes her head slowly. "But I learned something different. I learned that true success doesn't need an audience. True wealth doesn't need witnesses." She calmly gathers the documents, folding them back into the black folder. "And true love, Mother, doesn't compare. It doesn't measure. It doesn't weigh daughters against each other on public scales." The silence that follows is absolute. Kioma has sunk into her chair, her perfectly made-up face now stained with tears she doesn't even realize she's shedding. Chinedu watches her with eyes that are starting to see the cracks in the golden facade. The guests look down at their plates, uncomfortable, as if witnessing naked truths were more embarrassing than watching humiliation. And Mrs. Adaeze Okonkwo, the matriarch who always had the last word, who always controlled every narrative, who always knew exactly where each person stood in the hierarchy of value. Mrs. Adaeze says absolutely nothing. Because for the first time in 6 decades of life, she doesn't know what to say. All her certainties, all her judgments, all her carefully constructed beliefs about who is valuable and who is not. Everything has just crumbled around her like sand castles touched by the tide. And as the silence stretches, heavy and thick as Lagos fog at dawn, Uncle Emeka raises his wine glass. The gesture is slow, deliberate. And when he speaks, his voice cuts through the silence with the authority of someone who has witnessed truths that others denied. "A toast," he says softly, looking directly at Amara, "to the woman who built an empire so grand that not even her own mother could see it." His eyes gleam with pride and something that looks like vindication. Because the tree that bears the sweetest fruits doesn't need to shout its presence. It simply nourishes. It simply grows. He raises the glass higher, and when the right season comes, it reveals exactly what it always was. No one else raises their glasses, but Amara smiles at her uncle, a true smile, warm, and in that smile, there is liberation. Because she no longer needs them to believe in her. She no longer needs them to see her. She has proven the only thing that mattered. That her worth never, ever depended on their approval. And while Mrs. Adaze stares at the daughter she underestimated for 3 decades, while Kioma tries to process that her failed sister is richer than she ever dreamed of being, while the guests try to recalibrate their perceptions of reality, Amara simply stands there, standing, calm, powerful, and for the first time in her entire life, completely, absolutely free. Because the truth, finally, has been revealed. And no comparison, no judgment, no cruel word can ever erase what everyone now knows. Amara Okonkwo is not half the woman her sister is. She is everything her family never had the wisdom to see. And now they have no choice but to look. But the question that hangs in the air, thick as smoke, impossible to ignore. What happens when a mother discovers she spent her entire life misjudging her own daughter? When a matriarch realizes she built her family hierarchy on foundations of sand? When decades of cruel comparisons turn out to be not just unfair, but completely inverted? Mrs. Adaze Okonkwo sits in her mahogany chair, surrounded by her carefully curated opulence, her meticulously built reputation, her carefully preserved empire. And for the first time in her life, governed by control. She has absolutely no control over what comes next. What comes next is something that Mrs. Adaze Okonkwo has never experienced in her 61 meticulously constructed years of life. Something her money cannot buy. Something her status cannot command. Something her reputation cannot control. Silence. Not the respectful silence that always followed her pronouncements. Not the obedient silence that always accompanied her orders. This is the silence of revelation. The silence of undeniable truth. The silence of a world turning upside down. She looks at the documents scattered across her mahogany desk. Investment contracts with the OKV partner seal. Newspaper articles about the anonymous philanthropist who transformed education in underprivileged communities. Portfolios showing assets that exceed hers by a magnitude she can barely process. And in the center of it all, the simple, elegant business card. Amara Okonkwo, founder and CEO. OKV Partners. Her daughter. The daughter she spent 32 years saying was nothing. The daughter she just said less than 5 minutes ago was not even half the woman her sister is. Mrs. Adaze feels something she hasn't felt since she was a poor girl in a remote village, looking at the big houses of rich people and dreaming of the day she would be one of them. She feels small. This can't be right. The words leave her mouth before she can stop them. Denial. The first line of defense when reality becomes unbearable. You forged these documents. You are lying to embarrass me. Amara does not move from where she stands. There is no triumph in her eyes, no anger, only a deep, unwavering calm, which is somehow more devastating than any accusation could be. Uncle Emeka, Amara says softly. Could you please call lawyer Adebayo? He will confirm the authenticity of any document Mom wants to verify. Emeka already has his phone in his hand, a small smile touching his lips. I'm already dialing, my dear niece. Mrs. Adaze feels panic rising in her throat. If she allows this call, if she allows this verification, then there will be no more denying. There will be no more pretending this is some elaborate trick. No, she says sharply. Don't call. The silence returns, heavier this time, because everyone in the room understands what this refusal means. She knows it's true. She's just not ready to admit it. Kioma, who has been frozen since she saw Chinedu reverently kiss Amara's hand, finally finds her voice. But it's not the confident, commanding voice she normally uses. It's small, fragile. You are the investor for Chinedu's project? She looks at her fiancé, who is still standing next to Amara, as if in the presence of royalty. Did you know? Did you know the whole time and not tell me? Chinedu has the decency to look uncomfortable. I only found out when Miss Okonkwo revealed herself today. The company always kept its founder anonymous. I had no idea it was your sister. My sister. Kioma repeats the words as if they were in a foreign language. Then she laughs, but it is a broken sound, humorless. My sister, who Mom always said had no ambition. My sister, who I always pitied because she had nothing. My sister. Her voice cracks. For the first time in her adult life, Kioma Okonkwo understands that all her carefully curated success, her entire perfectly constructed brand of influence, her entire photographically documented life, is empty. She has followers. Amara has impact. She has likes. Amara has legacy. She has looks. Amara has substance. And everyone in this room has just realized it. Mrs. Adaze watches her youngest daughter, her favorite, her jewel, crumble under the weight of this realization. And something inside her, the part that is still a mother despite everything, breaks. Why? The word comes out as a whisper. Why did you never tell me? Amara finally moves. She walks slowly around the table until she is standing directly in front of her mother. Not defiant, not triumphant, simply present. Because you never asked about who I really was, Mom. You only saw what I wasn't. I wasn't glamorous like Kioma. I wasn't visible. I didn't appear in magazines or on social media. So, in your mind, I was nothing. Mrs. Adays opens her mouth to protest, but Amara continues, her voice gentle but relentless. When I was 15, I won the National Math Olympiad. You missed the ceremony because Kioma had a school fashion show. When I was 22, I received a full scholarship to study finance in London. You said it was a waste because I should be looking for a husband. When I came back and started my first consulting firm at 25, you told your friends I was doing odd jobs because I couldn't get a real job. Every word is a blade, not because Amara delivers them with cruelty, but because they are simply, undeniably true. So I stopped trying to make you see me. I built my empire in silence. I invested in people and projects that changed lives. I created foundations that educated thousands of children. And I did all that without needing your approval. Mrs. Adays feels tears stinging her eyes. Tears she hasn't shed in decades, since she decided that crying was weakness and weakness was unacceptable. But you are my daughter, she whispers. I had the right to know. No, Mom. Amara's voice is firm now. You had the right to know me. There is a difference. Knowing about my wealth, knowing about my successes. That is just information. Knowing who I am, what I value, why I chose the path I chose. That requires something you never offered me. What? Mrs. Adays asks, though part of her already knows the answer. Genuine attention, curiosity, love that doesn't come with conditions. Silence returns, but this time it is broken by Uncle Amika. He stands up, his chair scraping against the marble floor, and walks over to Amara. He places a hand on her shoulder with pride so palpable it fills the room. There is an old proverb your grandmother used to say. He speaks, looking directly at Mrs. Adays. The tree that bears the most fruit bends the lowest. The empty branch remains the highest. He squeezes Amara's shoulder gently. Amara chose to bend. Bend to serve. Bend to give. Bend with humility despite her extraordinary success. She carries so much fruit. Helping others, building futures, creating opportunities, and she bows under the weight of that purpose. His eyes sweep the room, landing briefly on Kioma before returning to his sister. While others stood, tall and empty, demanding admiration for branches that carry nothing but decorative leaves. Mrs. Adays closes her eyes. The truth of the metaphor is like a physical blow. She taught her daughters to stand tall, to demand attention, to be seen, but she never taught them about bearing fruit, about serving, about substance. Amara learned those lessons alone, and Mrs. Adays was too busy admiring empty branches to notice. I don't want your money, Mom. I didn't come here to shame you or to claim some kind of victory. Amara picks up her bag, preparing to leave. I came because you invited me, because despite everything, I still hope that maybe, one day, you might see me. Really see me. She begins to walk away, then pauses and turns one last time. But I realized something today. I don't need you to see me anymore. I spent 32 years trying to be worthy of your eyes, trying to prove I had value. But my worth never depended on your ability to recognize it. Amara looks around the opulent room, with its crystal chandeliers and gold-plated furniture and carefully curated portraits. All this wealth on display, all this need to show, to prove, to be seen. And she finally understands. You built all this, she says softly, because you spent your childhood being invisible, being the poor girl no one noticed. So when you got rich, you made sure everyone always saw you, always noticed, always knew how much you had. Mrs. Adays freezes. No one has ever said those words out loud. No one has ever named that wound. I understand that now, Mama, and I have compassion for it. But I will no longer be the mirror where you project your own wounds. I will no longer be the daughter you tear down just to feel tall. Amara walks toward the door, her posture upright, her dignity intact. She isn't running away. She is simply choosing to stop performing for an audience that never learned to appreciate the show. Wait. Mrs. Adazy's voice is rasping, broken. Where? Where are you going? Amara turns in the doorway. And for the first time all night, she smiles. It is a small, sad, but genuine smile. I'm going to live my life, Mama. The life I built. With people who value me not for what I have, but for who I am. With work that matters. With purpose that bears fruit. She looks at Kiyoma, and there is kindness in her eyes. Not pity. Kindness. And if you or Kiyoma ever want to truly get to know me, not the version of me you invented, but who I really am, my door is open, but I will no longer beg for a seat at your table. With that, Amara Okonkwo walks out of her mother's mansion. She doesn't slam the door. She doesn't make a dramatic scene. She simply leaves. And somehow, that quiet exit is more powerful than any angry word could have been. Inside, Mrs. Adaeze Okonkwo sits in her mahogany chair, surrounded by her opulence, her achievements, her symbols of success. And she is completely, profoundly alone. Not because Amara left her, but because she finally realizes all the ways she let Amara go. All the moments she missed because she was too busy looking in the wrong place. All the years she wasted measuring her daughters with the wrong yardstick. Kiyoma sits in silence, her phone forgotten for the first time in years, staring at the documents that prove her sister's empire. And she wonders when it was that she stopped building anything real and started merely documenting an empty life. Chinedu, standing awkwardly near the door, understands that his startup, his future, his opportunities. Everything was possible because of the woman his future mother-in-law treated like nothing. The irony is not lost on him. Uncle Emeka remains by the window, watching Amara get into her simple, modest car. A car that could buy and sell every other machine in the driveway 10 times over and still not reveal a tenth of her wealth. He smiles, because he always knew. He always saw. True wealth was never about what you show off. It's about what you build, what you give, the weight of the fruit you carry, and the willingness to bow under the weight of that purpose. As Amara drives through the Lagos night, the city lights flickering around her, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. Lightness. Not because she proved something, not because she won some battle, but because she finally stopped carrying the weight of someone else's approval. She is free. And in that opulent mansion in Ikoyi, surrounded by all the wealth money can buy, Mrs. Adaeze Okonkwo is just beginning to understand how much it cost her. Not in nairas, not in properties, not in status, but in something infinitely more valuable. A daughter who bears fruit. A daughter who bows with humility despite her greatness. A daughter she never really knew, because she was too busy looking at the empty branch that stood higher. The documents are still scattered on the table, irrefutable proof of an empire built in silence, of a life lived with purpose, a value that never needed to shout to be real. And in the heavy silence of that opulent dining room, 3 people face truths they can no longer deny. Chioma realizes that she built her entire life on likes and followers, but never asked if she was building something that mattered. Chinedu realizes that the woman he thought he was saving with his marriage is actually the sister of the woman who saved his dreams. And Mrs. Adaeze Okonkwo, the real estate billionaire who always had control over everything in her world, finally realizes that she never had control over the one thing that really mattered. The ability to see her daughters as they really were. And now, sitting on her mahogany throne, surrounded by her carefully displayed wealth, her carefully constructed status, her carefully preserved reputation, she finally understands the cost of only looking at what towers highest. You completely miss what truly matters, what bears fruit. And some trees, once taken for granted, eventually stop bowing toward you. They find other gardens, other people to nourish, other places to thrive, and you're left with only your hollow branches, wondering when the wealth you obsessed over became the emptiness you actually live with. In the weeks that follow, Mrs. Adaeze tries calling repeatedly. Amara doesn't pick up. Instead, she sends one brief, kind message. When you're truly ready to know me, not just know about me, I'll be here. Chioma walks away from 3 brand partnerships. For the first time, she stops asking, Will this get millions of views? And starts asking, does this actually mean something? And Uncle Emeka? He simply smiles. Because he always understood. Real truth, when it finally emerges, doesn't need to scream. It simply stands, heavy with purpose, and waits for those wise enough to finally look down. To where true abundance has always lived. Quiet, humble, real, bearing fruit.